Welcome to Latte with a Lawyer, a podcast dedicated to bringing you the stories of some of America's most successful lawyers, figuring out what makes them tick, how they creatively solve problems, and how others aspiring to be them can follow in their footsteps.
Okay, folks, welcome to another episode of Latte with a Lawyer. I'm your host, Jonathan Brickman, and this afternoon, at least where I am, we have Nicholas Cronauer from Cronauer Law with us. Nice to meet you, and thanks for joining us today, Nick.
Yep, nope. Nice to meet you as well, John, and appreciate the opportunity to be on.
Oh, you bet. So just to kick things off, Latte with a Lawyer, what's your morning beverage to get started?
That's a good question. And I go between hot coffee, iced coffee, or like I've been drinking pistachio cream cold brew lately, but I think I might switch it back to just the normal standard iced coffee.
All right, good deal.
And in the Midwest, when it gets cold, then we gotta do hot coffee too.
You got to do hot coffee, yeah. So you're in Chicago, right?
Yeah, technically outside Chicago suburbs, but
What suburb are you in? I used to live in Chicago. Where are you?
DeKalb, Sycamore, about an hour west.
Okay, got it. I lived I lived on the north side of Chicago in Evanston for about 3 years, one period
Okay.
of my life. Yeah. Chicago's a big place.
Yeah, it is.
Really
Nice
big.
town, other than January, February, but
Yeah.
most of it's good.
Oh yeah. I was down by the lake, man. It got cold there, windy and cold.
It's funny, right? Because it is a windy place, but it's called the Windy City, not for the actual temperature. It's because of its politics.
Right. No, I know that. I realize that. Anyway, it's an interesting place. Great place. So anyway, let's talk about your practice. Obviously, I know what you guys do, personal injury, but let's hear what you have to say about it.
We've transitioned. When I started, I graduated in 2011, kind of on the edge of the economic collapse. Way too many lawyers couldn't find jobs. I had ambitions to do big corporate stuff downtown Chicago. Didn't pan out. Couldn't get in that world, and then started working. Kind of do a little bit of everything, and then slowly the past really 5 years really hit transition and pretty much primarily personal injury. I say trial work. We do some commercial stuff. But yeah, I mean, it's gone from, like I said, the growth's not linear for sure. Last few years, about 2017, just been picking up steam, and now we're up to, I think, 13 people and lots of cases, and pretty much just trying to do only personal injury or other type of trial work.
Okay, good. And am I correct in saying this is your dad is also part of the firm? Was this his firm that you joined?
Yep, he started it 30 years ago. He was a general practice transactional lawyer, didn't really do jury trials, bench trials. When I started, it was me, him, and a part-time secretary. And I kind of got the bug to do trial work in law school, knew I wanted to do trial work, loved it, and just started going out, trying cases, and luckily snowballed into bigger, better things.
Yeah, interesting. So it's interesting you were interested in doing more like corporate kind of white shoe, downtown Chicago kind of stuff. What was the interest there in? Yeah, how'd you make? Yeah.
Being naive. I just think you grow up and everything on TV is big fancy lawyers in the big city and doing, making buku bucks, working for the big corporations, and outside looking in, it's got its appeal, for sure. I think probably most people, find that alluring, right? But now being on the other side and kind of seeing how that world works, I realize things work out for a reason, and I think that's why they worked out the way they did.
Yeah. I mean, I mean, why do you think it's a better fit for you?
I love being my own boss. I hate the billable hour. I feel dirty anytime I have to charge a client for my time,
Yep.
which we're getting away from, thank God. And it's just, I like the creativity. I like the camaraderie. Um, I like the upside, right? I mean, there's lots of downside. I've always been more of a risk taker, kind of an adrenaline junkie. And I just think that fits my mold much better than taking marching orders from someone else, trying to control the case when they're not even a lawyer, right?
Yeah, got it. I understand. It's much more entrepreneurial. That's kind of what I was sensing from you.
Yes, it's a great way to put it.
Yeah, for sure.
I went to college, had an accounting degree, so I've got the business background, and I've always say I've been entrepreneurial, but it's a good way to put it. People don't think lawyers are entrepreneurs, right? But I think a lot of plaintiffs' lawyers have to be.
Oh yeah, absolutely. No question about it. Were you an athlete growing up? Is that also part of your background?
Yes, I was. I was always smaller than my peers though until like college. So, I didn't really play much in high school, but basketball, soccer, school I grew up in, we didn't have football or anything. So grew up playing soccer, basketball.
Yeah, I'm always trying to, I think there's something about being on the offensive side versus the defensive side. I mean, maybe it's just my thinking about it, but it's kind of like in the brokerage business. A lot of athletes do that, and I think plaintiff attorneys tend to be more, aggressive and offensive minded, right? So, and so, many times they were athletes along the way somewhere.
Yeah, I never thought of it that way either. Like soccer, I never played defense. I was always like midfield or forward, right?
There you go. Yeah, it's funny. I talked to someone the other day, and I said, "Why'd you end up in the defense side?" And again, I always played defense. I was a defenseman in hockey. So it's interesting. I always think there's a relationship between those two things. At least in my life, I know personally that I always like to shoot than play defense. So I've always sold things my whole life, and it was much more offensive minded.
I'm gonna have to remember that with my kids when I'm to the extent they're not really big into ball sports yet, but once they are, like, you should probably play offense, don't play defense.
There
You
you
don't
go.
want to
Yeah,
prime them
yeah,
for the rest of their life.
there you go. How many kids you have?
3.
Three. All right, nice. And you're a young guy. 3 kids.
Yep.
Good for you. Any more coming? You need 2 more to have a basketball team.
No, not it's true. Not as of now.
All
So,
right. So I mean, maybe your dad was the influence, but why'd you make the decision to become a lawyer?
it's a good question. And, clearly he was growing up again, about an hour outside Chicago. So he was more general practice, solo practitioner. So group around that. I mean, you did see day in, day out how he helps people. You got to do what's right, even though it's not necessarily easy or the most popular thing to do, right? Being a lawyer. And, he had some big commercial style cases over the years that I think I kind of draw me into what he did. And then, you know, I remember, one of the things he told me is he had a political science degree, and he's like, well, if you want to be a lawyer, don't do political science, do something more constructive, more useful. That's why I did accounting. Then there's thoughts, should I be an accountant? Should I do finance? But again, being a trial lawyer, I think you would understand sitting at a desk, being a bean counter. I don't think was in my DNA either, but good foundation to have, and not necessarily that it carries over into trial work, but carries over into the entrepreneur side, as you talked about.
Yeah. And you're running a business, right? I mean, law is a business. You got to run it like a
Yep.
business too.
Yep, absolutely, man. Manage people, manage budgets, payroll, all that. So,
And are you doing that for the firm now?
not so much anymore. We have a full-time, office manager who kind of keeps track of
Okay.
bills coming in, money coming in, bills going out, that type of stuff. Payroll is pretty much automated. I'm a big systems guy, so I'm trying to do as much as I can through automation, systems management.
Okay. But are you running the people side of the firm, like managing the operation? Not
Yeah,
not the
pretty much.
yeah, okay.
Yeah, I mean, basically, you try not to, but fortunately, usually
Yeah,
falls
yeah. Yeah.
back
How,
on.
how do you like that? I mean, that's different from being a practicing lawyer.
Yeah, that's the thing they never teach you in law school, right? I mean, people can be a great lawyer, but if you're bad with your soft skills, your people skills, I mean, you're going to struggle, right? So, that's always the hard part, I think, of any job is just trying to manage people, and everyone's got things going on in their life. And obviously, my firm, my name on the door, so it's very important to me. But you got to
Yep.
understand, to some people, I mean, obviously, work's important, but there's other things going on in their lives that are going to make work less important, and just being able to kind of balance all that and make sure that everyone's rowing the boat, right?
Yeah, for sure. Um, and you guys are growing, you said you're continuing to grow, expand.
Yes. Yep. I think we're up to 13 people now. So when I started, it was me, my dad, and a part-time secretary.
And how many lawyers?
So my dad's more of counsel now, so he's technically a lawyer, but he's got a handful of cases left.
Yeah.
So him plus me, 5 total.
Okay, 5 total. And the rest is support paralegals and
Yep.
et cetera. Okay, good. I mean, and that's pretty typical, isn't it, for a plaintiff side firm?
Anymore, I don't know. There's some monster plaintiffs firms out there, right?
Yeah,
I think,
besides the Morgan and Morgans of the world, but
yeah, but even, I mean, average probably, but there's still, I feel like there's a lot of plaintiffs firms now I look up and they've got 20, 30 employee or 20, 30 lawyers, right? Which to me seems huge for a plaintiff's firm, but like everything, people are trying to scale and get bigger.
yeah. What's your what kind of cases you like to work on? Like, what's your favorite type of case?
It's a good question. You know, everyone wants the ideal unicorn case, right? But it seems like
Yeah,
every case I get has issues, has hair you got to navigate. Um, so it's tough, right? I mean, med mal cases can be fun because you learn things. It's interesting subject matter, but they're tough. The success rate, it's really hard to want anyone to render judgment against a doctor. The wrongful death cases sometimes feel like give you the most sense of fulfillment because you're trying to help bring closure to these people, right? But obviously those cases are very, very trying just on your emotions and trying to navigate obviously what is a very dark subject matter. So obviously as I've gotten older, tried more cases, done more cases, I think that's shifted. But I mean, any case there's a lot on the line, which can apply to cases that seem small. We've got a few cases that they come in and they don't seem like anything's too crazy, and then 2 years go by and they have to have all these surgeries and fusions. Cases like that, those are the most important cases to them because their livelihood's totally changed, right? So it's tough. It's like, who's your favorite kid, right? It's just
right.
every case is different, but everyone wants the good unicorn case, but I've yet to find mine.
Yeah. Okay, got it.
I say
Uh,
product liability. We do more with product liability. Those cases are fun too. I feel like from the med mail standpoint, the subject matter is interesting. It's kind of fun. You get creative. But again, they can be tough because people like to blame the plaintiffs, right? So um, I'd say pick anyone. Product liability is probably my favorite.
okay. So you guys, you have a pretty broad practice, and it's not, you know, you're not just focused on, trucking accidents, or, you're doing product liability, medical malpractice, you know.
Yeah, and one of the things about just kind of taking it, running with it, right? It can't be too selective. Hopefully, maybe in 10 years I can be more selective, but not at that point where I can say I'm only going to take trucking cases because that one's not going to keep 13 people
Yeah,
paid
yeah, yeah.
every other week.
Got it. And in terms of your approach, so you're doing a lot of trials, right? You're in court and with juries. I mean, what's your approach? How do you get ready? What's your methodology to make sure that you're in the best position to win?
And I think it starts with when you file the case. I mean, I have lots of cases. Basically, when you file a case, I think you have to make the decision. Pretend it's going to go to trial. There's 90% chance it's not going to.
Yep.
Pretend. I've got a lot of cases where they end up resolving before we even disclose our experts. But I've already hired my experts, retained them, got the reports, paid them a bunch of money. And part of me is always like, oh man, should I have waited to hire my experts? But I think there is value in the fact that you are learning through your experts, and even though you didn't necessarily have to incur that expense, I think that it clearly pays dividends, and that the other side knows what you're talking about. If you know what you're talking about, they know what's coming down the pipeline. So I would say the biggest thing is we do not cut corners when it comes to experts and finding who we need to help us work the case, or run the risk that, oh, we can probably get this settled without hiring experts. And I guess I'd rather be over prepared than under prepared.
Okay. And again, I've heard this from others, but people say they're litigators, but they're not really. They settle a lot of cases, don't go to trial. Do you like to go to trial? Is that your mantra?
No, I do, and I hate. Well, I shouldn't say hate. I feel like there's a difference between a litigator and a trial lawyer.
Right.
Absolutely. So I
Absolutely.
always
Yeah.
say I'm a trial lawyer, but no, I do. I mean, obviously, there's stress involved, there's adrenaline, but we just got off a run of basically we're supposed to have 6 trials in 2.5 months. And we just finished last Friday. It was weird, like all last week I just kind of felt I want to say down, but I would almost say down, and just kind of like I had to readjust to a new normal because I've just been on the trial kick high, I think, for so long. So yeah, it was weird, right? I think you just get so used to the juices flowing and kind
Yeah.
of just in that state of alert. And it was just like the body had to readjust that no, you don't need to be on edge. You don't need to probably have your cortisol going nuts, right? Just relax.
So how many cases I know COVID slowed everything down, but things are picking up again. I mean, what do you expect? How many times do you expect to be in court in front of a jury?
Before COVID, anything too, right? Like, COVID was weird because it really did shut down trial work for about 2 years, right?
Yeah.
So before COVID, I was getting to the point, I would say probably 2 cases a year, but that also goes back to like really, it's just like building a pipeline, right? They're
Yeah.
just younger, starting out, less cases. I got a lot more cases now, a lot more cases ready for trial, COVID delayed things. So, now we've done 3 trials in 6 months. And we're scheduled to do probably another 3 in 6 months, right? Which would be a big year for us. But then, hopefully next year we're doing 8, right? Just
Right.
keep doing more and more. But yeah, it was weird. We, with COVID went, I think, over 2 years not doing a trial. So the first one we did post COVID, it's almost like a little nervous again. Do I still remember how to do this?
Yeah. Do you even the ones where you're not, it doesn't go to trial, you're still prepping the same way? You said you're still using experts, you're still doing focus groups, you're still
Yep.
doing all that work?
Yep, absolutely. And I think, this kind of kudos back to your guys' system. I think, information, I think, is power. And the more you know and the more you understand your case, the more you can demand a better settlement, because you're not going to be scared. You're not going to be worried. You're going to say, no, this is what my case is worth. This is what the data shows. And I'm not going to budge. And obviously feel like that's a huge advantage that a lot of defense firms don't know, don't have,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
always drive results.
Yeah. I mean, what else did you do besides using, our platform? Like, what other devices have you used in the past to help get information, insights?
Like we used to use for jury selection software. I can't remember the name. I can get it for you.
Yeah.
But to be frank, I don't know. I used to be the big believer, and you gotta like stereotype people and draw boxes, and if they're Republican, they're bad, and if they're
Yeah. Yeah.
Democrat, they're good. So we had a lot of software that kind of did that, was going through, in real time, and even before in some counties we get jury ahead of time, trying to, in essence, paint a brush these people. But it just seems over the years, the more trials you do, when you just talk to people, that's your best evidence. So I've used trial consultants, help frame the case, work on my story, work on my presentation. That's not really data, but that's just more practice, right? And I do that in cases where it aren't set for trial. Just if I know it's going to be a good case, I'll start working early on trying to start crafting, what I think is going to be the best case.
Yeah. Yeah. And how does voir dire work there? Do you get a chance to, do a full questioning? How does it work in Illinois?
Yep. So we're lucky. We, for the most part, federal court's different based on the judge. Federal court, not so much, but state court, primarily every judge I've been around allows the attorney to take all the time they need. There's been a couple of judges where it's like you got 30 minutes, which
Yeah.
no one likes, but for the most part, the state court judges are really good about giving you as much time as you need. Usually mine take about a full day.
Okay. And I
But
would
we have,
imagine that's very critical, right, for you making.
I yeah, absolutely. I'm convinced cases are won or lost in jury selection.
Got it. And where do you go? I mean, when do you get caught by surprise? I mean, I know we were talking about a case where, they didn't go exactly the way you want to. I mean, how do you get surprised? Like, give me examples of where,
So I guess I wouldn't necessarily say you're surprised. Well, say surprises and jury selection goes, you
yeah,
think, well, and then something bad happens.
yeah,
Um, I guess I wouldn't say necessarily we're surprised. I'll talk about the one we were surprised, but the hard part in Illinois, and this is where I'm jealous of other states, is just to find 12 people to agree on anything, especially in today's climate where no one can agree on,
right.
if an election is real. Um, it's just, it is hard. You've got people like we had a jury, trial 6 months ago, we had someone wanted to give 100 million and someone wanted to give 0, right?
Mm.
It's just like getting 12 people to decide is tough. We just had a case that was deadlocked in our favor. It's a crazy story, but we had a juror who answered everything right. All our key questions that tend to, I think, flush out who we probably aren't going to like. He answered everything right. Obviously, I'm not a trial consultant, but I feel like I've got a decent grasp on people's behavior, body language. Nothing he said or none of his actions tipped me off, made me nervous. I thought given his age, he'd be a good fit because my client was older as well. And, that surprised me. And then afterwards, he was dug in and was not going to be convinced otherwise. That's the first time that's happened to me, but
Mm.
I call him a stealth juror. How do you weed that out? I don't know. And I'm trying to figure that out. Talking to
Yeah,
others and
yeah.
doing some research.
Yeah, in retrospect, I mean, what do you think? I mean, how do you think you could have figured that out?
Um, I don't know. In hindsight, I've talked other people say, oh, we need a trial consultant. You need to hire someone that knows body language better than you to sit there. So I guess maybe that would have worked. I don't know. But part of it, like I said, in Illinois with the unanimous 12, like there is luck involved, right? I mean,
Yeah.
get 12 people to agree. I've beaten my head. How do we not avoid this deadlock? It was a great case, great story, but sometimes there's just bad luck, and I don't want to say there's a cop out. I don't know.
Yeah. So how many other states require unanimous?
That I don't know. I feel like it's rare. There might be some other states. I think that it's maybe 6 jurors
Yeah.
unanimous. Illinois tried to do that. It was struck down as unconstitutional. But it's a lot easier to get 6 people to agree than 12.
Oh, sure.
There's a lot of states are like 6 out of 8, 9 out of 12. But yeah, I don't know what the breakdown is.
Yeah. So, okay. So does that influence your decision to go to trial or not based
Uh,
knowing that?
no, not really. I mean, I feel like, it can be done. You can still get good verdicts. I've been able to do it. Other great lawyers are able to do it.
Yeah.
The only thing it changes, I think, is your voir dire. Because you got so many people, you have to be more selective in who you choose to kick off, right? Which is what, to go back to your question about surprises, right? I
Yeah.
mean, it's good to have kind of a rough outline of who's going to be your good juror and bad juror, but at the end of the day, it's kind of like, a gut check. Is this worth striking this guy, knowing there could be someone, 8 other people coming down the line that are, crazy anti-plaintiff lawyer or plaintiff lawyers, plaintiff cases. Whereas if you basically know you need 9 out of 12, well, you basically get three throwaways, right? Which would totally change jury selection and I think the case dynamics.
So if you only get 9 out of 12, I mean, so how do you end up calculating the verdict, the amount? How does that work?
Only 9 of the 12 would have to agree to a number. The other 3 could sit in the corner, keep to themselves, and it wouldn't matter.
I mean, if you could strike them, but I'm saying so in your case where you didn't get a unanimous verdict, I mean, how do you calculate the amount?
I guess I'm
Am I
as far, I mean, I would just ask all 12 for the number I think is reasonable. I go through and explain why and have the verdict form and all that. And then ultimately, rather than all 12 agree, just the 9 can say, yeah, I agree with Nicholas. I think it's worth 35 million, or no, I think it's worth 4 million. I mean, ultimately, just those 9 have to agree. And the 3 that are, not agreeing have no say.
but that's not how it works though now though, right? I mean, when you have 9 that do and 3 that don't, maybe I'm not understanding correctly. Like you said, you need to have a unanimous, but when you don't have it, how do you arrive at a verdict?
Correct. So yes, so in Illinois, it's got to be 12.
Okay.
So if you don't have in Illinois, if you don't have all 12 on board, then what happens is it's called deadlock and a mistrial is declared because 12 didn't agree.
Oh, I see. So it's nothing. So there is no.
Correct. There's no verdict. So
Okay. Okay.
case gets retried then or
Oh, you
settled.
have to retry it.
Yep.
Okay. Okay. So you're gonna get another shot at it. So how many times can you go through that then?
unlimited until there's a verdict or a
Oh,
settlement.
until there's a verdict. I see. Okay. I didn't understand that. Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yep. No. So I don't like I said, I don't think it's common, but I've never really studied it.
Huh. And has there been any sort of pressure to change that?
So yes, the state did change it to a 6-person unanimous jury, but that was struck down as unconstitutional, I don't know, maybe 5, 6 years ago. They haven't tried to change the unanimous part yet. And I don't know if that's in the works or not, but they did try to at least make it 6 jurors rather than 12, but the Supreme Court said we couldn't do it.
Okay. Interesting. Well, that is I'm going to have to do a little bit of research, see what other states have to deal with. I haven't heard of that. So,
Yeah, I said I'm like all you California guys, I'm jealous of the 9 out of 12. It would be amazing.
yeah. I see. Okay. So you can, all you need is 9 to come up with a verdict. Got it. Okay. So just, last question I want to ask you, just in terms of building your firm, what are the things you look for? Like, what are the key traits that you need to be successful?
So good question. Lawyers, staff, what
For our lawyers, your legal team.
the biggest thing, and this is what I tell everyone, right? I mean, a lot of people think because you got a law degree, it's a license to print money but not work hard, right? And those two are not connected. You have to work hard. You have to, I mean, I spent my early years, I still do, reading lots and lots of trial books, strategy books, lots of medical books, trying to figure out the medicine because they don't teach you medicine. So you got to find people that realize this is not a 9 to 5 job. If they want to be successful, they're gonna have to put in time outside of work.
Yeah.
And as crappy as that sounds, I mean, it will pay itself. So, the biggest struggle is just finding people that want to put in that extra effort. Because I can't sit down and tell them and say, here's human anatomy, here's what every question you need to ask. We have rough outlines and stuff, but people that are curious and motivated and are willing to put in, I guess, the extracurricular time it takes to really develop your trial skills and develop the vast knowledge base you need to try a personal injury case, right? Because it's a lot of medicine.
Yeah, got it. If there was any one book, you mentioned books, what book would you recommend for learning trial techniques?
That's a tough question. Again, it's like, what's your favorite child, right? I think just from a very foundational baseline level, one of the first books I read, which I still think about a lot to this day, and it's really not a huge trial strategy book, but I think it's good foundation. Like, here's the world you're going to enter. It talks a little bit about just the different theories of negligence. It'd be Rick Friedman's case. I think it's called on Becoming a Trial Lawyer. I used to give that book to all my new attorneys. I just think does a great job, big picture. Like, this is a new world you're entering. This is what to expect. Don't feel like you're alone. Sometimes being a plaintiff's lawyer, you can feel like a lone wolf, but for the most part, everyone tries to help each other, and it's just a great book with, is this for you? And if it is, you're gonna, ups and downs. And if it's not for you, well, then and the one thing I always remember from that book is, what is evidence of negligence versus, standards or violations of conduct that constitute negligence. And I've used that throughout my career, and I think that's a nice juxtaposition that a lot of lawyers probably overlook. But like I said, it's basic, but I think it's great from a starting out standpoint. And then you go from there. I mean, rules of the road's great. Polarizing the case, I think, is great. Trial by humans, great. I read Keith Mitnick's book, is good with the metaphors, the analogies. I can give you a whole list that I think are good. I think more importantly,
that's good. You've already given me a bunch. I appreciate that.
So the social science books that are out there about
Yeah.
how people think and persuasion, stuff like that.
Yeah, good stuff. So you think that's important though, to read those things and try to internalize that stuff?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
And I'm reading right now Predictably Irrational. Again, it's kind of how people think, and I try to read as many books as I can in a year to keep advancing myself and becoming better.
Good deal. Now, listen, I mean, any profession, I mean, if you really want to be the best at it, you got to keep working hard. That is absolutely true. Just final thoughts you want to leave with the audience about your firm, and best way to connect.
Best way to connect, I guess, be just on our webpage. You can email me, NC, my initials, N is in Nicholas, C is in Cronauer, at cronauerlaw.com. Yeah, I mean, last thoughts, I tell everyone, if you're starting out, you just got to do it. Growth is not linear. It's I'm very can't think of the word now, but compounds, right? Compounds. So the trajectory tends to be kind of, I think, like that. And I would say we are seeing that as well. But yeah, just gotta, something you want to do, you just gotta start, you just gotta do it, and people can figure out what they need to figure out when they have to.
Good deal. All right. Well, listen, I appreciate it. It's been fun spending time with you, and keep up the good work. For everybody, Nicholas Cronauer at Cronauer Law, and this is sponsored by EmotionTrac, which is a legal tech platform to help litigators prepare for mediation and trials with our Insights platform. Thank you. Appreciate the time.
Thanks, John.
You bet.